Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back. I got another little retro review here, which is kind of a nice change of pace because it's been about a month or more since I covered the Phantom of the Opera from this Universal Classic Monster set, and I have a few more in this set that I do want to eventually get to, such as the Wolfman and the Invisible Man, both of which I haven't seen in so long. It's going to feel like going into a brand new. And I feel like I've kind of run out of the Hammer films, at least the titles that I was interested in or ones that are listed within a lot of top films from Hammer. So either it's not high enough interest for me, or there's not enough sticking out, or maybe my copy of it is actually kind of crappy and it's hard to track down. So after watching the review, where can you even watch it? So I was trying to stick with ones that were easy to get around. So Hammer, I'm sure I will stumble across some other titles in the future, but I wanted to branch things out a little bit here. So for this one, I started to poke into some of the classic stuff from a legendary actor, Vincent Price, who I'd only covered once on this channel in the Monster Club, which I will link to in the ending of the video, so stick around to the end. Now, I'd seen a handful of his films, like bits and pieces growing up, and a lot of little specials here and there, and as I got older, I did check out a few others, but it's been a really long time. So there's definitely a lot of room to explore in his catalog, and especially within this 5-film DVD set that I had picked up recently and mentioned in my little horror physical media haul. So the one of his that I chose from here is The Last Man on Earth from 1964. This was based on the book I Am Legend, which was later also readapted into the Will Smith film of the same name, which I saw, but I'd only seen it once a long time ago, and I don't really remember a whole lot about it, just some of the major points. But for this film in particular, the synopsis for is as follows. When a disease turns all of humanity into the living dead, the last man on Earth becomes a reluctant vampire hunter. So, a little close to home given the past 3 years. There's been like this virus thing I saw in the news, but we, really get a great setup with this. Kind of like what came later with more recent titles like The Walking Dead or any other story where we have a character making their way through in a post-apocalyptic world where either they are the last survivor or one of the few that are left to fend for themselves. It's a good chunk of this film, at least a third of it I would guess, is just spent only on Vincent Price himself, his character, and what his day-to-day routine is, showing his prepping, disposing of bodies that he comes across, gathering additional supplies, and we get these hints of what exactly these creatures are throughout that portion. They're showing him making steaks, hanging mirrors and garlic, and only being safe to go out and travel and explore during the day for any other kind of provisions that he would need. And during that time, Price's narration basically holds that entire first act of the film together. It's just his voiceover. It feels almost like a storybook or poetry reading of some sort, like you're being told this little story as he kind of fills us in on his life. But eventually we do get some backstory brought into this as well, in a way that feels actually quite jarring by comparison, because these flashback scenes show how the disease was discovered and spread. We're having more characters to work with, and even in their time of stress and need while this disease is taking over, it seems really fresh compared to, what happens later in the main character's current life, that solitary life on the edge of being taken out by these like vampiric creatures. So it's interesting to see that backstory, and even with the troubles that they're dealing with during the backstory, it's seeming like paradise compared to what he's got to live through in current day. And we also have some ideas laid out in this one, which we saw in future stories and, films and TV shows, that center around diseases, such as somebody being immune and, for one reason or another, and the characters trying to exploit that as a way to make a cure for this. And of course, the most common, which I think we can directly relate to with, more common things like The Walking Dead or especially The Last of Us, is that in some cases, the uninfected humans may actually just be the most dangerous creature that you're going to come across in this new world. So, and the film really plays into those perfectly, and it's a very early telling of those kinds of ideas, with Price's character being immune, and when encountering one person who appears to be infected and is slowly finding a way to treat them. Now, as for the non-infected humans, just like what we saw in later films, humans struggling for resources will be overreacting to certain things in a situation, to the presence of others, scrambling for resources, and there's a lot of infighting with that, just showing how dangerous they can be. And finally, let's talk real quick about these vampires, as I just got off of a whole week of vampire stuff. So they are quite creepy. They aren't sparkly or romantic or hip or dangerous or these completely ferocious monsters. You know, these ones, they shuffle and stumble around but can still talk, almost zombie-like in a way. But we get these groans and whispers and, you know, just moaning and groaning when they, you know, enter the scene. We frequently hear them first before anything else. And while they do, you know, strike doors and windows and try to, you know, like break into places, they're not super strong. They're just persistent. So there are many a scene where we have this creepy, groaning antagonist outside, just outside of the frame, kind of making it feel very unsettling as we hear that moaning and that attempt to get through to him. But really, the only bad thing I can say about this film isn't really the film itself so much as my copy of it, because I should have known that this 5-film set, which he used, was only $5. The problem is that there's only one disc. So they shove 5 movies onto one DVD, not even a Blu-ray, a DVD. So it's really poor quality, to say the least. You know, my copy of this was very washed out. The contrast was off. It was framed in a really strange way that didn't really make any sense. Audio was a little bit like muffled here and there, and the resolution in general was really cranked down. It was almost like watching VHS but blown up onto a 70-inch screen, while also the aspect ratio being that old square aspect ratio. It just looked like crap, sounded like crap, but I stuck with it and got through it and still was able to really enjoy the film. But then I noticed that Last Man on Earth is also available on Amazon and Roku and Tubi, among several other like ad-based services. So I'm assuming there's a much better quality version out there on any of those services. And even looking at the trailer on YouTube, there is better quality editions of this out there. But so any one of those other locations would definitely be a better place to check this one out rather than trying to track down this 5-disc set, which is kind of disappointing because there are some others on here I've been wanting to check out, such as White Zombie and House on Haunted Hill. I've been wanting to rewatch that one for a while, so I'm just kind of preparing myself that it may be practically unwatchable and I may have to go another route to check those out. But hey, it was only $5. But yeah, so if I want to check those out, I'll go a different route for that. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest video, this most recent one for this little retro review. You know, for Last Man on Earth from 1964. It's on various different services that are ad-based, so it should be able to track one down that's much better quality than what I had. But anyways, thanks for sticking around to the end, and if you're not already subscribed, you know, subscribe and hit that little bell icon to get notifications when I put up new content, which is usually once or twice a week, though occasionally I do work in more sections like I did last week with putting up 3 videos related to the Fright Night franchise and one about that physical media horror haul that I did. And I do have some other videos planned coming up really soon, ones that are going to focus on the Phantasm films, a bunch of trauma films, and just trauma in general, some more classic retro horror, such as some more old Vincent Price ones, getting to those Universal ones, and a lot of 80s films as well, some of the horror stuff inspired by watching In Search of Darkness, and then any other 80s horror or 80s films in general that I just feel like we don't really hear much about. You know, unfortunately, some of those may be hard to track down if you wanted to check them out after the review, but, you know, we'll see what I can come up with. But at any rate, that's all I got for this one, so thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.